Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're jumping into Playwright. It's one of those tools aiming to make testing modern web apps better.
Definitely. And our goal here is to sort of unpack how it helps build more reliable websites, the kind that don't randomly break on you.
Exactly. We've looked at sources covering its wide reach. It talks Node.js, Python, Java, .NET.
Right. And then the browsers, Chromium, WebKit for Safari, Firefox.
And operating systems.
Yeah.
Windows, Linux, Mac OS. Plus it even gets into mobile web like Android and Safari on iOS. It's pretty broad.
It really is. And that breadth is kind of the first big point. It aims to handle that whole complex mix.
So instead of needing different tools for, say, Chrome on Windows versus Safari on Mac.
Yeah, exactly. You write your tests once, ideally, and they run across all these different environments.
Even mobile browsers.
Through native emulation. So Chrome for Android, mobile Safari. It helps ensure things work consistently, whether you're on a laptop or a phone. Think about the efficiency gain there.
Okay, that consolidation makes a lot of sense. Now, you mentioned reliability. A big claim for Playwright is tackling flaky tests. Those ones that just, pass sometimes and fail others for no obvious reason.
Oh yeah, the bane of automated testing. Playwright has some clever ways to fight this. One key thing is its auto-wait capability.
Auto-wait?
Yeah, instead of your test just failing immediately because maybe a button hasn't loaded yet, Playwright automatically waits for elements to be ready, like clickable or visible, before it tries to interact.
So it stops those failures that are really just timing issues, because the page was a bit slow.
Precisely. It cuts down on needing manual pauses or sleeps in the code, which are often brittle. And then there are web-first assertions.
Web?
Thinking, the checks themselves retry automatically for a bit. So if you're waiting for some text to appear, the assertion keeps checking until it does, or until a timeout. Again, more resilience.
Okay, that sounds much smarter than just failing on the first try.
Yeah.
And if it does fail?
Then you've got tracing. It can capture execution traces, videos, screenshots. Really helps you debug what actually went wrong.
Got it. Now, something about it running out of process, how does that help compared to, whatever the alternative is?
Right. So modern browsers isolate websites in different processes for stability and security. Playwright aligns with that. It controls the browser from outside its main process.
And why is that better?
It avoids certain limitations you might hit with tools that inject themselves into the browser's process. It acts more like a real user, separate from the application's internal workings, leads to generally more reliable and accurate testing.
Like an independent observer, almost.
Yeah.
Okay, what about complex stuff, like tests needing multiple tabs or maybe logging in as different users in the same test?
Yeah, that's another strength. Playwright handles multiple pages, tabs, different origins, even simulating multiple users within one single test script.
How does it keep those users separate?
Through something called browser contexts. Think of each context like a completely fresh, isolated browser profile, like incognito mode, but programmatic. You can create these contexts really fast, one for each test, or even multiple within a test, say one for a buyer, one for a seller, interacting in the same application. Total isolation.
Super useful for dynamic sites. And how does it actually do the clicking and typing? I saw mentions of trusted events.
That's about authenticity. Playwright uses the browser's real input mechanisms to generate clicks or key presses.
So the browser thinks it's a real person.
Essentially, yes. The events are marked as trusted, unlike some synthetic events generated by JavaScript, which websites can sometimes detect or handle differently. It ensures the app reacts just like it would to you.
And it can handle tricky page structures, like shadow DOM.
It can reach inside those encapsulated web components, the shadow DOM, to test them properly. So really thorough interaction.
So deep interaction, not just surface level. Now, these browser contexts sound great for isolation. But does creating a whole new profile for each test slow things down?
You'd think so, but they're designed to be really lightweight. Creating a new context takes milliseconds. So you get that full isolation without a huge performance penalty.
Okay, fast and isolated, best of both worlds.
Yeah, and there's even a login once pattern. You can perform a login action, save the authentication state.
Like the cookies in local storage?
Exactly. Save that state from a context and then load it into new contexts for subsequent tests. So each test still starts fresh and isolated, but you skip the repetitive login steps. Saves a lot of time.
Clever. Okay, finally, the tooling around it. Cogen, Inspector, Trace Viewer, quick rundown.
Sure. Cogen watches you interact with the site and generates the test code for you. Great for getting started or automating simple flows.
Nice.
Playwright Inspector is like your browser's dev tools, but supercharged for testing. You can step through tests, inspect elements, see selectors Playwright suggests. Really helps with writing and debugging tests.
And trace viewer.
That's your go-to when a test fails, especially in like a CI/CD pipeline. It gives you a full recording video, DOM snapshots at each step, console logs, network requests, the actions taken, everything you need to see exactly what happened.
Wow. Okay, so pulling it all together, it sounds like Playwright offers this really robust package, cross-browser, cross-platform, tackling flakiness with smart waits and retries, aligning with browser architecture, handling complexity, and backed by some pretty slick tooling.
That's a good summary. It addresses many of the common pain points in end-to-end web testing.
Right, which leads to maybe a final thought for you listening.
Yeah, consider how much smoother your own online experiences might be becoming. Tools like Playwright, working behind the scenes, are constantly pushing for more reliable, less frustrating web applications. It's kind of shaping that digital world we interact with every day.
Definitely food for thought. Thanks for breaking that down.